You know, have you ever met someone who's just incredibly brilliant, but at the same time kind of stupid? It's such a strange thing, right? We spend all this time trying to get smarter, but it turns out that if you're not careful, that big brain of yours can actually circle right back around and become its own special kind of dumb.
So let's get right into it with this question. Can your own intelligence actually make you stupid? I know, it sounds completely backward, but today we're going to break down exactly how this happens. And this is the important part, what you can actually do about it.
Okay, so it all comes down to how you use your intelligence. Think of it like this. On one side, you've got the stupid intelligent. These are the folks who totally misapply their brain power and get tangled up in all these intellectual traps. But on the other side, you've got the smart intelligent, the ones who use their intellect wisely. And, well, our goal here is pretty simple. Figure out how to be one of them.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack this smart-stupid paradox. Then we'll get into the 4 traps of intelligence that even the smartest people fall for. After that, we'll talk about the real key to avoiding all this, which is something called your thinking disposition. And we'll wrap up with how to actually, think smarter.
So, at its heart, the paradox is really this. Just having a high IQ, it's not enough. Not even close. In fact, what happens is that super-intelligent people get so good at using their brain to solve problems that they start to over-rely on it. It becomes their only tool. And that creates these huge blind spots, right? They end up not developing other really crucial skills, like empathy or just plain old intuition.
And this over-reliance, it leads us straight into what we're going to call the 4 traps of intelligence. These are the specific, predictable ways that a really powerful mind can, believe it or not, end up working against itself.
So let's just lay them out. We're going to walk through all 4. The first is the misapplication of intelligence. The second is something called mindlessness. The third is that tendency to defend beliefs even when they're wrong. And the fourth is the trap of using the wrong mental shortcuts or heuristics.
All right, let's dig into trap number 1, misapplication of intelligence. See, our intellect, it really evolved to solve new, tricky problems. But we end up trying to use it for everything, even stuff it's just not built for. I mean, trying to solve a social problem with pure logic? That's like trying to milk a cow with a hammer. It's just the wrong tool for the job. Social situations need empathy, intuition, reading body language. All these things our brain can do, but those circuits get kind of rusty when we just rely on pure logic all the time.
And this story, it just perfectly illustrates the point. You've probably heard it. When NASA spent millions and millions of dollars developing a pen that could write in zero gravity, what did the Russians do? They just used a pencil. NASA's engineers totally misapplied their genius to over-engineer a solution. And it's a classic trap for smart people, right? Looking for that super complex answer when the simple one is staring you right in the face.
Okay, trap number 2 is mindlessness. And this one is really fascinating. If you have a high IQ, chances are you also have a really strong predictive ability. Your brain gets so good at seeing what's coming next that it basically just goes, I got this, and checks out. It literally just stops paying active attention.
And this leads to something that I'm sure you've experienced, and it's so confusing. Have you ever made a stupid mistake on a super simple task? Well, here's why. The simpler the task, the easier it is for your brain to predict how it's going to go. And the easier it is to predict, the more likely your brain is to just stop paying attention. It's a total paradox. You're more likely to make a careless mistake. Your brain is already playing chess 10 moves ahead, and it completely misses the step right in front of its face.
All right, on to trap number 3. And this is a big one. It's using your intelligence to defend your own wrong beliefs. See, a smart mind is an argument-making machine. It's excellent at it. But the danger is that it can weaponize that skill to build this fortress of logic around an idea that is just completely wrong.
And here's the absolute crux of it. Your intelligence stops being a tool for finding the truth and instead becomes a tool for rationalization. It's not about reason anymore. You can literally argue yourself into a corner and just stay there, stubbornly defending a sinking ship, all because your brain is just that good at creating justifications, even for things that are flat out wrong. Okay, our final trap, misapplied heuristics. Now, a heuristic sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just a mental shortcut, a rule of thumb we follow to make decisions faster. And look, they're super useful. But the trap is, when you take a set of rules that works perfectly in one part of your life and you try to apply it to another part where it just completely does not fit. Let me give you a perfect example. Think about a super successful CEO. At the office, they have a set of rules, right? Be efficient, give direct orders, focus on the bottom line, and hey, that works.
It builds a $100 million company. But then, they go home and try to run their family with that exact same set of rules. And what happens? It's a total disaster. It just pushes everyone away, because family doesn't run on efficiency and orders. It runs on a completely different set of rules. One's based on empathy and working together.
So, after all that, the big question is, how do we get out of these traps? Well, the solution isn't about getting a higher IQ. It's about changing something called your thinking disposition. And this is the key. This is how you make that crucial shift from being stupid intelligent to being smart intelligent.
So what on earth is a thinking disposition? Honestly, it's pretty simple. It's just the attitude you have towards your own thoughts. It's got nothing to do with the raw horsepower of your brain. It's all about how you relate to the ideas and conclusions your mind cooks up. It's the difference between being a slave to your intelligence and being its master.
Now here's the really cool part about all this. Your thinking disposition, it's not set in stone, not at all. You can actually work on it, you can cultivate a better one. So let's get practical and look at 4 steps you can take to start thinking smarter. Okay, so these are the 4 key things you can do to really cultivate that smart, intelligent disposition. And this is probably the most practical, actionable part of our whole chat, so let's break it down. First up, collect information before you make a judgment. This is all about fighting that powerful, almost irresistible urge to jump straight to a conclusion. Think about it. A great doctor might have seen the flu 100 times, but they still ask a ton of questions just to make sure they're not missing something more serious. Okay, second, actively engage with opinions that are the opposite of your own. Now, the goal here isn't necessarily to agree with them. It's to feed your brain more data. You're giving your super smart brain more perspectives so it can run a much more accurate calculation. All right, the next 2 are all about hitting the pause button. Number 3 is simple but so hard to do. Think before you decide. You've got to resist those automatic snap judgments that your brain just loves to spit out. You have to consciously, intentionally engage your mind. And finally, number 4, think critically about your own thinking. This is what people call metacognition. It's about stepping outside of yourself for a second and asking, wait, why do I actually believe this? Am I falling into one of those 4 traps we just talked about? Have I really considered the other side of this argument?
So, at the end of the day, this really isn't about trying to get a higher IQ. Let's be honest, you're probably plenty smart already. The real goal, the wiser goal, is to get better at applying the powerful intelligence you already have. It's about learning to see the traps and use your brain for what it's truly great at.
So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Is it possible that your greatest strength, your own intelligence, is also creating your biggest blind spot? And if so, what's just one small thing you could do this week, just one step, to start cultivating a wiser way of thinking?